all made and cinched down tight over your ears. So take it away, Dave and Mickey.
I'm Dave.
And I'm Mickey.
Yes. See how panicked I made it sound. And this is Shiny Side Out, broadcasting on WZZR for Australia, from Australia for Revolution Radio. You can get to the website, revolution.radio, where it's home to fresh, unfiltered ideas and conversations. In the chat room where I am right now, and I'm just going to say hello immediately to Jim Jones, Flea, and all the others there. Flippy, Zed Troll, Lavender Streams, just to name a few. And you could be there talking to us on air while we're on air, which is the magic of technology. But it's also a great place to get your merch, so do that. All of the merchandise artwork is done by A Mad Painter, and he's one of the other hosts, long-standing host. He was there from the beginning, and I met him in this blue monkey, and her name is. So yeah, fantastic. You know what, Mackie, just a quick aside. They're never quick though. So an aside, I never got to jaunt over to the US to visit all of the hosts.
Well, same.
I wanted to do it. COVID hit. I had plans. The whole family was going to go across the pond. I think that's what people call it over there. Across the pond. For us, across the pond is New Zealand. But it doesn't matter. Who cares? And meet up with them in Kentucky. But we didn't get there in time to be able to see Nighthawk. That's a shame. The promise was always there. And one day I'll pay respects to him getting across there if we all survive. Any cataclysm that might be coming up. But that's the plan. That is the plan, and we thank him very much. He's forever remembered by all hosts of this station. You know, Mackie, did you know this is show number 642?
240 and 600, so we should have solved all the life's puzzles, because this is the 6th times we have the 6th. So it's actually the 7th time we have the 42, isn't it?
Yeah, because there was the 42 and then 142. You're right. Yes, the 7th 42. Now you can catch us on air, online, and anywhere on your smart device. To do that, grab an app to listen anywhere, or sit at home on don't sit on the Grace tabletop digital radio. It's probably against the instructions inside the manual. I would place the radio on the tabletop or the desktop, and then have a nice cup of coffee and listen to us. That'd be great. Traditional style. If you're on the ISS, hello. If you're on a military ship, your service is appreciated. Thank you very much. If you're in any military service for that matter, ocean or not, if you're a Marine, I know the Army hates you, and if you're in the Army, you hate the Marines. It's just the way it is. And you know what? Maybe never the twain shall meet. Of course, in wartime, maybe that all dissipates, and there's no infighting. I'm not answering that.
Well, musically.
Pork chop ringing me, and he knows I'm on air. Good luck. Anyway, if you missed Solaris' show, where tonight she had Cyberwitch Cafe with Niche and herself, and it was an open discussion. Now, this is the kind of discussions I like. I liked the old round tables that we used to frequent from time to time. That's an oxymoron. Frequent, and the amount of hosts that would join in. And there was one tremendous fellow that I can't remember his name, because, you know, showbiz is a fickle business, kid. You know, one day you're really famous and the next day you're just like, you know, that guy, right? Whatever his name is, I don't know. That's Krusty the Clown. So, let's see, where was I? It's free to access the archives. So if you don't know who Solaris is, and we do mention her every single week, and her fabulous show, and her great guests, she's got a great radio personality, and she treats a guest, gives them all the floor to talk about whatever they want, and it's really fair. Like, honestly, do yourself a favor. I mean, you listen to us, that's fine. Do listen to Solaris. She's fantastic. So, beside it being free, you can not only listen to Solaris shows or ours, you can listen to any of the host shows that you'll find inside the archives. You can download them as MP3s, which is great because that's what they are. And you can listen to them or binge them at will. I just love that. I have been listening to a whole bunch of Milsim stuff, and so, you know, Splash 1, Fox 3. I can't help it. It's in all this military jargon is in my head now, and maybe that's for the best. Who knows? Look, Meki and I, we live in Australia, so we've researched and understood the traditional owners of the land from where we live, because we don't live next door to each other, or we're not in the same room. We do dine into the station, but we are probably 80 k's apart, I would say, maybe 70, 80, something like that. And there's different regions. So where I am broadcasting from is Darkinjung country. Meki, where are you?
I'm in Daruk country.
Daruk country. I can't roll my R's as good as you can. And Meki and I pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. Meki, I've got to say something.
Say it!
All right, there you go. So, that was easy. No, I wanted to say that the biggest news in the past week was the Biden-Trump debate. I don't think anyone debated anything. I think they just talked. They had some talking points prompted by the two male and female kind of hosty questioning kind of people, whatever you want to call them. I don't think the format is a true debate. I would like to see a debate with a chair, like a chairperson, and I'd like people. I think this time they cut it into and turned people's mics off, and you know, you couldn't talk over the other person. I think that was done with maybe a little bit more respect than the past.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating train wreck. That's what it is. That's how I can describe it. I don't think I have any other words to describe this most recent broadcast debate in the same room. No audience. Very CNN tilting. The questions seemed very fair, probably the fairest that I've seen in the history of watching these debates, which is unusual. Normally you're prepared for it to be left or right-leaning, depending on who it is who's running it. But I found this one to be right down the middle, even though some of the follow-up questions tried to keep the Trump or the Biden response on track. They tried to keep them on track by saying, look, you've got 90 seconds left, and I'd really like you to answer the question. Here's the question again. And after they've gone, doesn't matter who it is, they go, oh, it's all lies, I tell you. And the other one go, well, you know, he's lying, because that never happened. I like how they were given the ability to talk openly and say anything, but they had to kind of stay on target. But the biggest disappointment was all Trump had to do was stay out of trouble. You just don't act like a pork chop, right? Don't call the other person names. Don't try to win. Just be you. You is enough.
Can't help himself.
I know. I saw that. But then Biden, far out. The chemical cocktail seemed to fail him a lot. And I make this joke about the chemical cocktail because everyone was talking about it. Even the people on his own team were saying that the words chemical cocktail. They'd given him a cocktail. not alcoholic. Maybe
Yeah,
some
cold,
vitamin injections or something to keep him on track. But that wasn't evident, Meki. I'm going to say it wasn't evident. And by the end of the debate, apparently insiders were messaging the CNN crew that were running their own broadcast of this, and even their anchors were mortified by what happened. They were shocked. They go, "He's not normally like this." No, because the broadcast, everything you broadcast about him is cut down to only the little grabs here and there, where he's excellent in your eyes. And this was just apparently was free scripted, and he really wasn't coping. He had a lot of brain farts. There was really nothing going on. He slurred his words, and even Trump made a point. I don't understand what he just said. Maybe he doesn't know what he said either. That was one of those little win points. Like if you had to score it, like a boxer missing with the punch and then someone just getting it square in the jaw. I think there was a couple of points that where if you were watching this and you'd voted for Biden, and this is what CNN was saying, not me, they're disappointed. And there's a panic within the Democrats to try and find how they can replace Biden already. But Meki, I'll let you talk about it before I give you some of the solutions that they've already come up with.
Oh, look, we're actually in a very interesting situation here, right? In my opinion, we have candidates, neither of which is fit to be president of the United States. That's my opinion. Mm-hmm. I don't like either, but I watched the debate live on.
Yeah, me too.
I can't remember if someone was broadcasting it. Anyway, I think it was the ABC actually. Anyway, so I watched it, and it played out pretty much the way I thought it would. Biden lost his train of thought a couple of times, quite obviously, in fact, and he just sort of rambled on, and then he Trump. He made a point about Putin, but he kept saying Trump. Okay, fair enough. You hate both equally, I guess. That's fine. So, in my opinion, Biden is not fit. That's my opinion. And look, I'm a student of history. I look at this stuff fairly unemotionally, and you have to look at the merits of the situation. Would I have Joe Biden watch my kids for an hour? The answer is no.
No.
So I can't in good conscience then say, oh yeah. I mean, look, I'm not American. I don't vote in the American election, but it does affect the whole world. It does matter who is president. It does matter. It does matter in many ways. That's why we're interested here. That's why we keep harping on about it. And so the whole world is watching this. 300 million Americans, you have Trump and Biden. So Biden is not fit. Full stop. The Democrats have realized this now. And you're right. The exact words that I've heard on every news channel, doesn't matter what way they're leaning, is panic.
That's
panic.
Right. Uh-huh.
The Democrats are panicking. You're right. Trump could have just stood back. He didn't have to say anything.
That's right.
He went after Biden, and it looked petty, like you're beating up on an old man in the park.
Yeah.
no one thinks that's a good thing.
No.
Yeah. But ultimately, though, it's Trump was lying. He was just sorry. Maybe he's not lying. Maybe he's just telling the world how he sees the world. He said. He actually said this. He didn't say in those words. I'm going to put it in my words. He said, "Well, we should have 4th and 5th trimester abortions." What? Who said that?
Who said that?
No, really. He said Trump. Trump said that. Trump said, "Oh,
he said we shouldn't."
No, we should. No. He said the Democrats want to allow abortions in the 9th month, and even after birth.
That's right.
That's exactly what he said. He said no Democrat wants to abort a child when it's 9 months in the womb, just about to come out, or in fact when it's born.
It's born. That's right.
That's insane. that's completely insane.
I think
but, you know,
I think
again-
he was citing a single instance from a single governor in a single county somewhere within the states who was Democrat
I'd like-
leaning, and
I'd like
it
to
was
see that.
because
see-
of a rape or something that had happened. There was something,
Well,
and he focused
there's
on
no-
that to make his point. Although that's really not the point you should have made.
No, but the thing is this: there's nowhere that I can think of in the States or any Western country where you would abort, even in case of rape. Doesn't really matter at that point.
Because that's
in
euthanizing.
9th month of pregnancy, or having the child being born. That's not gonna. That person would be up for murder, infanticide. In fact, that would be infanticide, and you would spend a long time in jail for that. And the laws anywhere are fairly clear on that.
Yeah,
But
I totally understand.
But so that was not necessary. He's happy that Roe v. Wade was overturned.
Yeah.
He's proud of it. Okay, fair enough. I mean, if you're pro-life, I get it. That's your point of view, and then say that. I'm glad Roe v. Wade. I'm pro-life. I believe that every life is sacred, and say it that way. Don't say that the Democrats are trying to kill babies. That's just.
Well,
and I hate to make a comparison, but that's what the Jews. Sorry, that's what the Germans said about the Jews.
Yeah.
The Germans said that the Jews are going to eat our babies. No, they're not. They're going to eat your babies.
I don't think that was the thing.
But and he went on to go on. January 6th wasn't his fault, and he told people not to do this and then the other. And look, ultimately, he kept on harping on about how the election was stolen as well, which is another interesting thing because the truth is this, right?
He said fair.
No
He
court.
wants it to be fair. Yeah.
Yeah. No. See, the lady asked him the question: would you accept
That's right. I know.
the outcome of the election,
Yeah.
no matter what it was?
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh well, yeah, if it's fair." So the answer is no, I will not accept.
No, that's
the
of
answer.
course. That's right.
Okay. So it doesn't matter if it's fair or not. If he deems it not to be fair or fraudulent or whatever, then he will. Ultimately, he will not accept it. Right. So in my opinion, both people are completely unfit for this role.
That's
The
true.
bigger problem is this. So let's say Biden is elected, and we've got 4 years. We won't have 4 years because within a year he'll be declared incompetent, and the vice president will step up. That's what's going to happen. So if Biden is elected, look at the vice president, and if you like that person, then by all means vote for Biden. Knock yourself out, right? If you don't like the vice president, then do something else. However, Trump, in my opinion, because he's done it the first time, he won't make the same mistake. He will not give up power again. He will not. He will not step down. Once he's president, he will stay president. Okay. This is my prediction for the outcome of what's going to happen if Trump wins now in 4 years' time. He will not step down. Okay. It won't happen. And that, in my opinion, that is a fairly dangerous situation. Right. But again, America, you make up your own mind, right?
So I was under the impression through my education in the States that a president can't do more than 2 terms.
They can't.
That's right.
They can't.
That's right.
But he will find a way to stay in power.
Well, you can look at some other people in the world who might have done that, and is that right? Well, they've done it, but look, maybe this is where we can disagree. Whether he does or not is another situation. Whether they've set up, a World War III conflict situation and the Democrats wouldn't want to be the ones who were running it when that happened. There's another issue. There's another scenario. So I can blame it all on Trump in the end anyway, right? You're right. I'm not sure how he would deal with losing the next one, and if he was capable of instigating something that allowed him to stay. You do raise a good point. I'm not sure that he would be allowed to do it. All right, I just.
Oh no, he won't be allowed to do it, but
he's not allowed to do it at the moment. No, that's
Yeah.
right.
Then look, if there were a war, because I mean, if you've got a emergency law anywhere,
Yes.
any statutes anywhere in
You can
your
hold votes
constitution,
off.
in your law,
Mhm.
you can invoke that, the emergency statutes,
That's
right? You can
right.
declare if he declared martial law, what happens when you declare martial law? You suspend the
Voting.
Constitution.
That's right.
You know that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, if you declare martial law, then no, it's martial law. I have to stay in power until order is restored.
Mm-hmm.
And that's happened in many countries across the world over the last few years.
That's right.
And in history. So, that's the way. If I were him, I would go. I would declare martial law or some kind of national emergency.
Yeah, I hear you. Look, 2029, April 13th, 2029 is Apophysis passing through again, right? So that would be right about, we kind of on the cusp, of the next transition. So anyway, that's one thing. Next, it was the panic that was ensuing within the Democrats, trying to work out how not to have Kamala Harris as, being stepped up from VP to president. Because they recognise that that's not a thing. They don't want that to be a thing. And I do feel for the person who, has got to their position. And I watched a little clip of Kamala Harris the other day talking about today will be yesterday. But instead of saying it that clearly, it was about 5 minutes of trying to explain it. And you still didn't understand if she knew what she meant. It's not a hard concept, but she was struggling to explain it and had to repeat it over and over again, and just didn't seem to get it. It was hilarious. So I know that they don't want her to be president, otherwise it would have already happened. It would have already happened. What's in their basket? What's in their little toolkit? Well, they don't know. They can't put him back on the stage again because they think they wiped out a whole bunch of votes. We have to wait for the next, because I'm an avid fan of watching it occur. I like being the commentator, watching this race happen, but I'm disappointed in the players you have, the VIPs, the VEPs, right? The vice presidents that you have sitting in the wings. It's like, wow, is that what happened? They're talking about trying to get either Hillary or Michelle, Big Mike, into position by offering Kamala Harris one of those legal roles on the federal court or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what they're talking about at the moment.
Get out of the way. Yeah, we're promoting out of harm's way. A lot more money, less responsibility. Go.
Yeah, you'll be in like a council of opinion, so it's not gonna. They'll hate on us, but shush, it won't be so bad. So that's what they're currently talking about, being able to move her aside gently and put one of those other, either Hillary or Michelle Obama, so they can step them up to be president, temporarily unvoted, not voted for, but temporarily, to be able to sit on the ballot. But they're talking about, we're getting close enough now to the ballot that they're worried that some states may sue or not be able to change the ballot so that it still has Biden, and even though he wasn't president at the time, he can't be taken off in some cases, and that any votes for him would just disappear. They'd be null and void. And they won't translate to Michelle Obama or Hillary Clinton, for that matter, if they happen to be running. But having their name on the ticket isn't something that you can do this far out. Is that what because the process it's going to take to do all these other things is going to be too slow, and it'll mean it's too close to the election, and they're in this really tight bind right now, which is kind of sad. It's kind of sad for them. I don't vote. Mickey and I don't vote in the U.S. elections, though I wish I could. But it saddens me, as we've said before, that these are the two that are running. I saw RFK doing a show in parallel to it, watching the debate, like mortified that neither of them stayed on topic, that they tried more vigorously to defend the accusations from the other person, because not defending them would mean you kind of agreed with them, or I don't know, right? No one was stoic, and RFK's going, no, you see, and I watched parts of that one. I had the few going, but I would mute them, and I was watching cheers come from the CNN crew and cheers coming from the Trump supporting crew on a PBD, I think it's called. I was watching that broadcast as well. So exciting times. These are crazy times. If these aren't the craziest times that we've ever had, ever on the planet, I'm a monkey's uncle, Mickey.
Well, you're a cousin. But
no, I'm not. I'm B negative.
B negative.
I've got no rhesus monkey gene.
Very nice. Just keep believing that. No, look.
It's Rh negative.
I have lost all faith in democracy completely. And in fact, we haven't been living in a democratic kind of environment for a long time now.
No.
We're living in a fascist, post-industrialist society.
Yep.
Which is geared really towards the complete control, not suppression, but control of all that are deemed not worthy of top leadership. Right? That's really what we're doing here. The unseen hand, which Dave and I speak of about, is exactly what they want, and that's how you maintain the status quo most easily, by controlling the majority. All right. I mean, they have to move in the shadows because there's not a lot of them. Right, and I'm not talking about the people that you see every day, not Bezos, not Musk, and none of those.
No.
These are the people that you don't see.
Mm-hmm.
You try to call them people. And I maintain that there are quite a few of them that are of a very ripe old age indeed. But
it's like the 9 unknown men.
Like that.
That's
it's
right.
It's like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that. It's and you never know who these folk are. There's their dynasties as well, their bloodlines, absolutely. But I do believe that some of the progenitors of this bloodline, they are still with us to this day. And you can follow the blood. I mean, other people have done the research and the work with the bloodlines. I'm not going to go into too much detail. Suffice it to say that the experiment that was the United States has now failed. Not because it was not a good experiment, but because a lot of people worked against what the United States wanted to do as an abstract concept, right? I'm speaking of it as though it were a person, and in this context, it kind of is. It was an idea. The United States was an idea. Bacon, I think, called it the New Atlantis. Like a new hope, a new vision for the future of people, of mankind, of humanity, where you have a constitution, you have a Bill of Rights, right? And did it start perfectly? No, it did not start perfectly. Did it, did all the, signing members, display high moral fortitude? No, they didn't. Some were slave owners, okay? There are a lot of Masons in initially setting it up, right? And Masons helped a lot across the Atlantic as well with setting it up, because it did embody very basic concepts that a lot of secret societies have fought for a long time. That's why they're secret societies. They can't do it openly. They'd all be dead if they had fought for these rights openly. Humanity's right to be free of oppression, to be free of tyranny, to be free of injury and torture, etc., etc. And America could have been, and it was for a brief time. It was that for a little while, right? And then, of course, we are well back into neo-feudalism, right? A fascist, post-industrial society where very few people will work going forward. I can tell you, very few people will work, and the population will be reduced. Not like a wham bang kind of approach, and everybody dies. No. If you are winding down the population numbers, and make no mistake, these are the highest population numbers in the known history of the world.
That's right.
There's no record of anything higher ever. But what they're going to do is they're going to slow down the birth numbers. They're going to slow down a number of other, certainly fertility is high on the list. That's what SARS-CoV-2 really was for. And we will see a massive decline in population over the next few decades. It's not going to be. It's going to be tomorrow, and in fact, Dave and I probably won't be around to see it. But the population will dwindle significantly, and it will do so fairly slowly, not completely, of course. I mean, birth rates will still be there, but not as they are today. And it'll be a wind down, so you can orderly shut down all the things you don't need.
That's the right description of it.
And if you think I got rocks in my head, well, what do you think the Gates Foundation is really investing all this money in? Yeah, it's birth control.
buying up all this farmland.
Yeah, it's birth control in India, in Africa. They're the most vocal advocates for birth control, right? And I'm not talking against either, but you have to always look at what are the underlying motives, right? And not only that. See, the argument that's being made is that there are too many people on the planet, pollution, consumption. That's completely wrong. It is completely wrong. The problem that we have is the distribution of resources, not the amount of people consuming those resources. This is my most fundamental argument in this space, we can't afford billionaires, or trillionaires for that matter. We can't afford them. Because you can't have that much wealth concentrated in a single person or a single family. You just can't.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. Because then you are in the situation that we face today. There is no resource shortage. We destroy food.
That's right.
Every year.
We just don't ship it to those people who don't have the money. We only ship it to people who have money to buy it.
Bingo. Water. There is a problem with fresh water. There is. That's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's getting worse. It seems to disappear, Dave. Those massive lakes and so forth. The Baikal or Lake Baikal. That's probably one of the most famous examples.
The largest freshwater lake. Yeah.
Yeah, but other lakes are drying up as well, and there's less water kept in the glaciers and the North and South Pole. That's sort of melting off and going into the sea. Now, again, there's a solution for that problem, which is desalination. It's expensive, but it's definitely viable. And, the Arabs are doing it. In Sydney, we've got a desalination plant as well. We probably need another 2 or 3. But those are things that are happening. I do believe that large industry is to blame to a fairly large extent for the shortages of fresh water. We do know that a lot of companies, a lot of large factory and industrial, kind of complexes, massive industrial areas consume a lot of water for various reasons.
Don't forget the ones that have agreements to be able to get an allowance of water out of the ground and then sell it to us.
Yeah. Do you know what's interesting? I read a book. We're going back to the 90s now. I was studying political sciences at uni, right? And there was a really interesting book called Water Wars. The fight over the next essential resource, not oil but water. And the guy that foresaw 2008, I think by 2 or 3 years or 4 years even. Like he actually did the analysis and he looked at the American real estate market and he said it's going to crash 3 or 4 years before it happened. You know what he invests in now? The only thing he invests in now.
Water.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Pepsi?
It's Pepsi. Yeah, partial credit. It's got water, right? No, but that's exactly right, Dave. That's all he does. He invests in water. And one of the James Bond movies, I can't remember which one. I want to say Spectre. I can't remember. But this massive criminal organization that James Bond was fighting. This is the Daniel Craig James Bond I'm talking about. They were called, I think they were called Spectre, the organization. Anyway, it turns out everybody thought, well, what are they doing? What are they really trying to do? Trying to get oil or uranium? No. It turns out they're trying to hoard all the world's freshwater reserves.
That's right. Yeah. So Meki, if you were a rather wealthy person and you were buying up farmland within the US, for instance, but you weren't doing anything with it, you're hoarding it, preventing the creation of food.
Yeah.
You could be doing all sorts of things, to be honest. But if you did that alone, that would be one of those disrupting technologies. You would be preventing people from getting the food that they could very well have got at a fair price. I'm not saying that this is happening. I'm not saying it was a scenario. Right? It's in the car. So it does my head in that we're not seeing this. You mentioned this is kind of, we're watching the death of democracy and capitalism because they're kind of intertwined. I see this playing like a train wreck. And what have we seen which signifies this more than anything else? And that was when the governments bailed out the banks. Because in capitalism, you should just let them fail.
Let them fail. Yeah, you're right.
Let them fail. Why should you let them fail? Because then they'll learn how to do it right. If someone's going to say you and I, Meki, we were having a factory and we're producing stuff, and we were paying too much for our employees or goods or both. Shipping costs were too high, and we were trying to keep the product at a nice price point to sell more of it, but we weren't. Advertising costs, blah blah blah. Everything was going against us. The economy was going against us. If we start to fail, does the government bail us out? No, not on your life. But they bailed out the banks, who then recorded record profits to the amount of the bailout. If you didn't look it up, that's pretty much the same amount. And then they paid themselves bonuses. Like, good on you.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
That doesn't seem like they needed that much help after all. You got to shore up the banks. Well, do you?
Right.
They could have liquidated all their assets and probably would have been all right.
At the very least, what they should have done is break up those banks.
Yes.
What they allowed those banks is to buy up all these other smaller banks.
Mm-hmm.
And they should have also had a repayment plan in place, because that didn't exist.
That didn't happen.
But what happened was, all the government, they bought the toxic assets. They bought the shares and the financial instruments that were sitting on the bank's books and hurting them, obviously, and just took them. They just took them and paid them good money for it. And of course, so people always say they get themselves bonuses. Well, the thing is this. From their point of view, and you have to really look at it from the banker's point of view, they did the right thing. They did absolutely. They had this horrible toxic asset, which was going to cost them, and they managed to offload it.
That's
Good for you. Of course, you should get a bonus. Yeah, I mean, for social. I always come back to this one observation. Like I said, it's in the book as well, but the movie, The Big Short. It's made by Steve Carell, or his character, what's the point, where he sits there on the roof of some Manhattan place and drinking a coffee, and he had just told his people to sell all their stocks and positions. And he says, this wasn't stupidity. This wasn't, this wasn't greed, right? Or just pure criminal. It was none of these things. It was just that they didn't care. The banks didn't care because they knew they would get a bailout. They just didn't care.
Yeah.
It is funny. I mean, think about this for a second, Dave. In your life, right? Let's say doesn't matter what you do, right? There's no consequence to you. Actually, you burn down your neighbor's house. You, I don't know. You run away with your pastor's wife, or you rape a horse, or whatever you want to do,
yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Good Lord. No, but really, and there's no consequence. There's no consequence. You do whatever you want. Doesn't matter. Do whatever you like. That's the situation that those banks found themselves in. It didn't matter what they did. They just be okay. Oh, we're gonna be okay. Doesn't matter. Do whatever you like. Just imagine for a second. You didn't have to worry about consequences, Dave. Just for a second. Right?
Yeah.
Whatever.
That's like finding a friend for the end of the world.
That's like finding a friend for the end of the world. Exactly.
Do you remember that? When
good
Steve Carell again. Steve Carell.
Yeah.
He's driving his car and he's listening to the radio, and this asteroid that named Matilda was now being told to the public that it's going to collide with Earth, and they've only got 4 days or whatever, right? The story was. And she's hearing it and staring off into the distance, and just it twigs. She was thinking, as we discover, that I can't spend the last 3 days with this pork chop, and she just gets out of the car and runs into the darkness, never to be seen again.
Yeah.
Right?
What?
Yeah, I'm out here. I just can't do this. She says it. She runs away. Yeah. So that's the world without consequences.
Yes, 100%. Doesn't matter. Whatever you want.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people. No, sorry, no. Quite a few people on this planet find themselves in that position. They're super, super rich. They're super powerful. It doesn't matter what they do. Completely irrelevant. It literally does not matter what they do.
Yeah, that's right.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter who knows about it. It's completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
Right? Now, would they suffer some embarrassment? Yeah, maybe that's why they rather be in the shadows, but it doesn't matter. And see, that's the biggest divide that people don't understand, Dave. When it comes to dealing with the parasites, right, and then regular folk, this understanding is like an abyss. You just can't comprehend it. Most people, when bad things happen, they think, oh, consequences, someone has to pay for this, or, where's the law, the law has to be upheld. And so that's what normal people think, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in truth, that's a complete fantasy. It applies to you, esteemed listener, if you're a regular person. It doesn't apply to you, esteemed listener, at all if you're a parasite. Not at all. None of the rules apply to you. You can do whatever you like without any consequence. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And that's, if people were to come to realize this, Dave, I think we would take a massive step in the right direction, because the systems as they exist today are not the same for everybody. They're just not.
That's true. Look, even the separation between the frontline worker and the CEO of a company.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that the conditions are completely different for both of you.
100%.
I know of, I'm not going to say who they are, I know of a CEO of a company that had so many speeding fines that you would imagine there'd be a jail term to pay it off. You'd imagine it. You imagine the license, because in Australia, if you only get 12 points, and if you were to speed excessively over the speed limit, within a little, there's a margin, right? You've got so many kilometers over the speed limit, and if you're within that, you get some points off and a fine. And if you run out of your 12 points, then you've got to surrender your license. You can't continue to drive. In fact, if you just do one big one, like double the speed limit, then you can have your license revoked immediately. And if you're doing something completely stupid in your car, you can have if you live in Victoria, they will crush your car. If you're doing donuts on the street or something, right, driving recklessly, or evade police, they will crush your car. They have anti-hoon laws there, so you can't drive irresponsibly, right, or recklessly. It's bad. So I know of a CEO that had so many speeding fines that any normal person would have to do jail time, and they didn't. They never had to, and they kept driving.
Yep.
And I just find that, how is that even possible? Oh, they probably had a QC.
Well, there's that.
That's
Absolutely.
Queen's Counsel. That's the highest ranking defense lawyer that you can possibly have.
Which-
Right?
Which are now called cases, but that's correct. But the
Oh
interesting
yes, of
thing
course.
is that
Yeah, of course. They never realised
she-
that. Yeah.
the Queen is dead, long live the King, right? No,
Yeah.
interestingly enough, now even in corporations that espouse things like same-sex equality and anti-harassment laws, etc. Like this is our credo, this is who we are. I know in companies I formerly worked for, not now but formerly, that there were significant outstanding HR cases against senior members of staff, but they brought in the money,
Yeah.
so it was okay. Well, it wasn't okay,
they
but
were earning money. Yeah.
it just didn't go anywhere because they brought in the money. So
Mhm.
it's again, there are two sets of rules. One set which has no rules, and the other which has all the rules, which is most of us. And only if there's a transgression within that group against another member of that group will there be consequences for that person.
That makes sense.
Okay, only then. But even then, you have to ask yourself, what kind of consequences, etc., because it's a very different kind of group and probably different to what you think it is, right? And I'm not claiming special, divine knowledge. No, what I'm claiming is 40 years of really doing the hard graft and reading and talking to people and traveling a lot, and forming my set of opinions. It's really, it is actually terrifying, to be honest with you. There's some things I will never speak of on the air, never.
Yeah.
In a billion years, never mention it,
Likewise.
because it is terrifying what actually happens in the world. So is this veneer of civilization necessary? You know what? Tell you what, Dave. For most people, it would be, right? Because we have not been given the opportunity to be more than what we are. And by that I mean we haven't been given the opportunity to be fully realized human beings that are responsible for our own actions and can make informed and sensible decisions for ourselves. And I look outside. I mean, the one thing that terrifies me is stupid people. It terrifies me because I can't. What do you do with a mob of stupid people, Dave? What do you do?
You
I mean,
don't.
you want to be leading it, is what you want to do, right? You want to lead them if you can. You don't want them running after you with pitchforks and torches.
That's the truth. So that you've placed them in a position now by describing that, is that by leading us one footstep at a time, they can keep us where they want us.
Of course.
And that's why you hear people say, you know what, they always radio ahead all their ideas. Yeah, they do. They don't want to hit us with a surprise that we, get upset about. If you think about, because with the 6 minutes we have left, if you think about this, all the things that have happened to us since, say, let's call it 9/11,
Sure.
all the rules in place, if they decided to make those rules without there being a cause, it's causality, cause and effect. If there was no 9/11, do you think we'd have the Patriot Act in? Do you think there'd be surveillance upon our person, infringing upon every one of our beliefs? I'm saying the rights we have, just our beliefs that the government should stay well away from our private affairs. Let the government govern. Let the government, make sure that their, geopolitics is up to scratch, that our trade is doing well. Organise all those things that are up at their level and stay out of our business. I know I'm not being awful here, but when you talk to people and say, what do you think the government should do? That's what they say.
Mm-hmm.
And for us to have not fought really hard against what's now, it's even worse since 9/11, this last few years in surveillance and rules that mean that everything we do digitally is kept and analyzed, and there's AI doing psych profiles on people, predictive things to do with how your sentiment changes over time. There is triggers that can corral people. Oh, they're getting a bit, this group over here, we have an AI that, see what it does, it starts posting stuff on their social media, and so that it'll lead them towards a distraction away from where they are. They're going down a path. Let's turn them. Let's steer them into where they should be. And this is happening right now. Just imagine, the Tesla robot, Mackie, have you seen it?
Yes, I have.
It's kind of black and white, and it is slim, kind of like C-3PO is. It's completely dexterous. It has all the same ranges and everything that humans do. And the frightening thing is they're talking about being able to have a skin on it. Not a human skin, not a biological skin, but...
Not yet.
No. But have a skin on it so it can be of the type of person you want it to be. But I mean, it's not a person. Do you want I would prefer the C-3PO kind of look. Make it obvious that it's a robot. Don't make it so close to being a human that you can't tell. I don't know, like the Biden footage that kind of makes it, when they zoom in, looks like there's a person wearing a mask. Oh, it's because he's being coherent, right? For once. This is what I'm seeing in social media at the moment. So it scares me, Mackie, that we're not fighting. That's what it does.
I agree. I completely agree. It's in fact the most telling symptom of where we are, which is almost a complete mental domination of most of our people. Because I mean, think about it. It's almost 8 billion people, right? And people for the most part are not. I mean, not everywhere in the world. And recently, and I want to say Uganda, but I'm probably wrong. Maybe Kenya. There was this text that was meant to be signed into law recently, like last week. And the young people of that country in Africa, they said, no, this is ridiculous. We can't pay these taxes. And they protested. People were killed. They stormed the parliament, and the president rescinded the law. So,
I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So pockets of resistance still exist. They do. However,
they'll be hit with more of that depopulation thing.
Well, that's exactly right, especially in Africa, right? But in Western nations, I mean, with the exception maybe of the French and maybe some Eastern Europeans, there's not much of that fighting spirit left. America, if you look at America, and what's happening to the American population, and how the parasites have been really going to town on America, it's really astounding that nothing has snapped.
Totally.
It's, and look, Australia, we got 26 million people. We have got a fairly easygoing attitude, and things haven't gotten that dire yet for us here. They're getting pretty bad, though. They are getting worse. And people realize, in fact, I listened to a number of different documentaries and opinion pieces on this. They've realized that the model of our model of democracy, our model of government, right, the two-party system, etc., both in Great Britain, as well as here, as well as in Canada and other places, certainly in the United States now as well.
It's at the trailing edge of it.
It just doesn't represent us anymore.
No, it doesn't.
It is just not. What would be better would be something like the Knesset or the German Bundestag or something like that.
A council. That's what we really need.
Yeah, the council.
Hey, well, this is the end of Shiny Side Out's first hour. I'll come back after the break, and we'll be talking about, Mackie, we can still part 10, parasitic system, fiat currency, and fractional reserve lending. Do like, share, subscribe, and comment to be able to help us with the algorithm. You do us a favor, we'll do that. Thank you. We'll see you shortly.
Listen,